right, we are live for another special episode of the 5 Minute Career Hack Podcast in excitement for an upcoming workshop that we are hosting as a team alongside some amazing partners called Burn the Rule Book Career Transformation Lab. And we're going to be covering how you can step into the next pivot in your career considering your purpose, considering your preparation, and considering the position that you want to be in. So today I have a very special guest who's going to be one of our speakers at Burn the Rulebook Career Transformation Lab, none other than Helen Hannison, who is an expert at helping people realign the work they love with what matters most. She is a leadership coach. She is a narrative therapist. I love that. A speaker and a best-selling author of a book called Unstuck that I'm sure she's going to talk about as we discuss this important live tonight. So, Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. We are happy to have you as well. I know we have an upcoming episode where you were interviewed by Jamila Brown here recently. So we look forward to all the gems that you're going to share there. But we get to give the audience and all of our listeners a pre show, not only to the workshop, but to your amazing expertise. And as we talk about career transformation, one of the things that we know is many professionals they struggle to make that next step in their career because they feel stagnant. They feel frustrated with where they are. And I was actually just listening to a book where they talked about frustration being a type of anger, but it turns into
Mhm.
frustration when a really important purpose is tied to it, or it impacts a relationship, or it impacts your legacy. You start to feel frustrated because you can't reach the goal that's very important to you. And so Gallup shared a study that 85% of people worldwide feel disengaged at work, and it's linked to this career stagnation. So, from your expertise, tell us why do so many talented professionals experience career stagnation even when they are working really hard to be successful in their careers?
And I think that's sort of the point. Working hard and hoping is not actually a strategy for success. And yet, we are kind of weaned on this idea, aren't we, that if we just persevere, if we sort of do good quality work, if we show up, if we put the hours in, if we are excellent at that thing we do, it will be enough. And that isn't where the magic is. That makes us reliable, but also a bit vanilla. We need to be relentlessly ourselves. And we're all unique. We all bring something different. And it isn't just the technical skill set. That's not what I mean. It's what we bring in terms of our innate strengths as well. The values, that sense of purpose that drives us. It's all of that packaged up and applied, pointed to our sort of professional, purposeful push that will get us noticed. And I think that's what careerists who feel really stagnant and exasperated by that or worried about that are really going through.
Yeah, yeah, I caught on to how you said, it's exhausting when you're just not being yourself anyway. And you said being relentlessly ourselves, that helps soothe some of
Mm.
that career stagnation. If you could put a quick definition just to the person who may not know how to be themselves, what does being relentlessly yourself look like in the workplace?
I think it's really simple, actually. I think it's about knowing what feels purposeful to you and then making sure everything you do is aligned with that. If you're taking on roles or scopes of work or acting in a way within the team that you feel you should, you ought to, external others would be impressed by or appreciate you for, but it violates or doesn't honor even some of this stuff that is important to you, that isn't the right route to go. And it's untenable. I think there is other research that shows we can all do that. It's a bit performative, isn't it? But we can do what's expected of us by others for about 6 months at a pop. And then we sort of pull back, we step back, we can't actually keep that up. So we retreat. And I think that's another sort of push on the pedal, if you like. If we think about a car, that keeps us, we're going forwards, we've got momentum, and then we retreat again. So in terms of career progression, it's another one of the big no's to, getting the progress you actually want for yourself to do that. So I think,
Yeah.
put it really simply, I've given you a very long answer now, haven't I? But it's being
Go
true to
ahead.
yourself. It's being
Yes.
true to yourself.
Yes, and when you are, because I love the example that you used of you can really only be not yourself or fake, for the lack of a better word, for like about 6 months, and then it becomes, to your point, exhausting. And the
Mm.
visual in my head was, it's hard to like keep momentum in your career and in your life. So it's like the merry-go-round. Once you stop pushing, that's you being fake. Then it stops, and then you get that momentum back. We want that cruise control type of authenticity, so to speak. I love the way you talked about
It's a
that.
brilliant word, isn't it? The authenticity. Because I think we all know when someone isn't being authentic around us. We do have that sort of sense or radar, don't we? So it's no different in our career lane. The people around us will find that somewhat confusing if we're not just consistently ourselves. It's a bit, volatile, if you like. I'm not saying we are volatile, but other people don't quite know where they stand or what to expect from us. There's just something intangible that people pick up on.
Yes.
So I think it's another barrier to, achieving what we want. Certainly when it comes to being considered for elevation, people want to know that, leadership is going to be consistently delivering and consistently
Hmm.
themselves and has that integrity running through them and the confidence to step up and into that next role. So that's actually the most important thing to demonstrate who we are, really.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, because when we do, it leaves room for growth. So if we kind of move about with, I've got it all, I get it all, I understand it all, or retreat when we don't know how to be ourselves and just be not afraid to make mistakes and not afraid of failure, it leaves room for somebody to actually help us get to that next step. And I think it's also a form of self advocacy when you can show up as yourself. That's you, committed to your growth, and you standing up for what you need in your career, or from your organization, or from your support partners or bosses at work. So thank you for, shedding that light, because I think authenticity is a very loose word. We use it a lot. But just to understand context of how you can let it show up in your career, I think is important for listeners to hear. So,
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
yes, yes. So we know that sometimes there are signs that come up that we know we're stagnant in our careers, but we ignore those signs, or we don't want to acknowledge that we don't feel joy and we don't feel happiness in our positions. And there was a stat that I read that nearly 70% of employees don't recognize stagnation until it's deeply affecting their performance or their morale while they're at work.
Mm.
So, talk to us a little bit about what are some of those subtle signs that someone who's stuck in their career, what does that look like, and how might they recognize it more quickly than they currently are, if that makes sense.
I think this is about really just tuning in and listening to those feelings that you've got, the rhythm of your week as you go through it. And I would start on a Sunday night specifically. If you look into your calendar and you don't feel pockets of happiness or excitement, or at least looking forward to some of the stuff that's plotted there, and you feel dread or a heaviness or an oppression, you just don't want to even maybe open the laptop and look at what's going on in your week, that's a tell. It's a really important tell. And do you know what? We can go to work on Monday and get propelled through our whole week, and we can go on like that for months, if not years, and sort of forget that until the following Sunday again. And I think for me, that would be the definition of career stuckness, is sort of coping a bit too positively with things that are making you less and less happy. So that would be one. Then when you're at work, I think it's quite simple. If you think about where you get your job joy, what do you enjoy doing? Where do you sort of not notice time is passing. You are just that absorbed by it. Versus where do you feel like every minute lasts an hour and you're kind of clock watching and making excuses to, I don't know, go to the coffee machine or out for, like, whatever it is, the corridor conversations that don't need to last that long. You know, I think virtually these things have changed, but we still all notice when we're in avoidance and feeling depleted by the things that we have to do and they're part of our job. So it's those are the two scales as you go through the week. And I think if people kept what I would call a job joy journal, then after about 2 weeks, the patterns are absolutely undeniable.
Yeah.
And those would be my top tips for someone to recognize and tune in quicker
Yeah.
to what's going on for them.
Those are phenomenal. I had to write them down myself because it sounded similar to actually a speech that I did on yesterday about checking in with yourself. And the reason I like
Ah,
the way you poised it was because it's you check in with yourself and notice how you feel. So it's
mm,
one thing to look at the calendar to get your to-do list, but looking at your calendar to kind of understand how you want to be, you have to be in touch with your emotions to see how those tasks or those time blocks make you feel. And if they don't make you feel good, the first step is acknowledging, right? So I love the spin on it. And then I'm definitely going to be implementing a job joy journal. Uh, I love it. It's the 3J scenario. I like it. It's interesting that you even said that because Jamila actually posted in our community today asking our career hacker private community what percentage of their job they actually like. And about most of the pollers said that it's just about 75 to 99%. And I just think that
mm.
I think it brought awareness, is because that's what I kind of took from what you said. It brings awareness to those things that you love. And now that you know them, you're going to seek them out more, whether it's in your current work or in your future work, right? And it sounds like you want to add a thought. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, this is at the heart of what career redesign is all about. It doesn't have to be big, sweeping transformations for everyone all of the time. It can be these smaller little sort of, I suppose, curating what we want from our roles or job crafting. So you're right. Once you can see where you're getting more joy, you can absolutely job craft to spend more of your time doing that or advocate for yourself into a slightly different role or swap elements out that maybe somebody else would enjoy relieving you of so that you get to do more of the bits that you love. There's always a way, but there's only a way once you're aware and thinking about it and trying
Yes.
intentionally, consciously to craft your career how you want it.
Love it, love it. And I love that you said try because you'll often find me saying a coin definition that I learned actually from a distant mentor, that the way to build confidence is to always be willing to try. So even that
Yeah,
even pertains to what we're talking about now with like, you know it. Now you have this awareness on it. Now you got to keep trying to see how you can continue to
yeah.
make this thing come to the forefront. So I love that.
And you know what? It's another sort of danger point for stuckness, isn't it? That idea
Yes,
of getting stuck on between the intention action gap. Because I think even though we say awareness is the first step, and I absolutely stand by that,
absolutely.
the important step is, and what do you do with that? And
Yes.
probably for everybody listening to this, everybody coming to the Burn the Rule book next week, it's really not attending that will make the difference. It's what is actionable from it in their real world. And
So true.
I suppose that would be the takeaway I would just really strongly want people to take on board for themselves and sort of think about what can they actually try, what can they
Yes.
do, and it might not all work, but it will certainly get them closer to knowing what will.
Yes, such an amazing point because I'm sure, and I'm not sure, you can tell me if you've been in this position or not, but I can be known to be a professional course taker, trying to get all the information, attend all the workshops, join all the groups when I'm trying to excel in an area. But it reminds me of a quote that I learned from the Compound Effect book. I don't think Darren was the originator of the quote, but he said, "Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only the potential of power." What you do with it is what
Mm.
turns it into power. And so, to
Yeah.
your point, coming to Burn the Rule Book, I'm sure you've got pamphlets and workbooks from work trainings or classes that you attended during the 2020 pandemic era where you have all this information. We don't want you to add to the list of things that you have in terms of knowledge. We want you to come prepared to take action.
Mm.
Not even afterwards. During the course of this 3 day period, we want you taking action right away. We're going to have it designed where we're going to be checking in day by day with those who attend day 1, 2, and 3. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you for making that amazing point on what the expectations are of those who attend Burn the Rule Book. So right now, we definitely, I'm not sure if we're able to see the not customer, see the listener feedback. I'm going to look at my phone as we go, but I'm going to ask you and the audience a question. And if I'm able to get, whether they're watching on a replay or if I'm able to capture anything live, I'll certainly call it out. But I'm sure you getting to writing the book Unstuck. There was an experience tied to that, right? Where maybe you felt stuck in your career. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about your personal journey of what got you to Unstuck? And as you round out that answer, can you just let us know how people can get a copy of this book? And I know you see it behind her head. She is her
Oh,
marketing
oh
at
my.
its best, Unstuck, bright yellow color. But Helen, just tell us a little bit about what got you there. What was that experience that was the aha moment for the inception of this book?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a story. For me, I had spent about 20 years in public relations. I had become a director quite young. From the outside, looked like it was all very shiny and successful. I was in a lovely office in Covent Garden. Um, and I was on the board. It really, what could be wrong? But I did feel less and less and less connected to what I did. And I think some of that was being promoted away from the bits that lit me up, actually, and sort of having to sort of delegate those down to other people wasn't easy. But at the junction of motherhood, it was absolutely, I don't even know how to put it. It was impossible. Um, I felt a very powerful pull to be present for my little one. My own mum died when I was a teenager, and I think I hadn't seen that coming, but it was, massively important, absolutely important. But I also felt that my career defined me. So now, how do you honour both things if they're both most important? And it all sort of combusted. And I was made redundant and honestly spent years sort of reeling with career grief and trying to figure out what I meant, um, how I would curate something that was compatible with the kind of mothering I wanted to do, but also be stimulating and be, keeping me alive and aligned. And I look back now and call those years my lost years. So, really, the purpose of my work today is to help other people make the kind of aligned career transformation I got to in the end, but without the lost year. I sort of that
Gotcha.
have an easier path because there is actually a formula, and I figured it out in the end. And I can probably match you for courses. At this point, I've got 2 degrees, and I'm a positive psychologist and a narrative therapist and a leadership coach. And I think I will never want to stop learning. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. However, it is about what we do with those skills and knowledges that we accrue, I think. So for me, that brings me full circle. And actually, the entire formula is distilled in that book behind me, Unstuck. It's a smart guide to purposeful career redesign, which is also got a companion course and is the heart of my one-to-one coaching. That's what I live and breathe helping people with every day.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I did put in the chat that if anybody else wanted to share some career stories that and how when they were stuck and what they did about it, feel free everyone to engage us in the chat. As I'll definitely be looking to either celebrate with you or invite you to the Career Transformation Lab where you can learn how to get unstuck if you haven't quite figured it out yet. But Helen, I wanted to touch on one of the things that you said, and it was a really, I saw a distinct connection to something in your personal life that was tied to your relationship, where we talked about frustration earlier, It was tied to an important relationship, the mother child relationship. It was tied to your legacy, and it was tied to your
Mm.
purpose, which was to build that legacy and to be a role model to your children. And that was the thing that made you halt and say, okay, I got to figure out a new strategy to get to be able to
Yeah.
fast track my advancement. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think this is probably the single biggest reason for people getting stuck in their careers that I see. We can get caught in a success trap because we're perfectly competent or even strong at these career roles that we move into. And we can spend years just enjoying actually being propelled along and promoted here and moving company there and thinking that that's enough. And then something smacks us between the eyes and says, do you know what? You're missing the point, the big, fat, purposeful point of your life. And for me, it was this junction with motherhood, as I call it. But my clients come to me these days with a gazillion different career crossroads, and it sort of doesn't matter which one they've been thrust onto. The point is that there's something so aligned to their values or violating those values actually, and the role they're performing has become so disconnected from their purpose that sort of they are desperate to express. That's where the dissonance sets in, and I think in the end that kind of conflict is untenable for any of us. We the psychology of it is we will always look to fix that. We literally can't cope, and we just sort of integrate in the easiest way. And the problem with that is the easiest way is usually the status quo and what, just doing what we always have done.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, the calling and the reason we're in so much turmoil over it in the first place is the opposite direction. It's about honoring this very intangible, elusive purpose. And that
Hmm.
takes a bit of unpacking, but is
Yes.
worth it.
Yes, you definitely can't discover purpose with the snap of a finger. It's a journey that you'll be on, and you'll continue uncovering that long term by doing the work and implementing strategies for getting unstuck in your career. And they're going to get some insight into those strategies at Burn the Rule Book. I love how you talked about values. That's something that we do. We walk our clients through as often as possible. I revisit my values for myself. I changed one of them this year as a result of one of those kind of recalibrations that I was doing. And you said something earlier that stood out for me, and now I'm connecting it to the values pieces. You could be stuck when you're letting your career define you. So instead of letting
Mm,
your career define you, your values are actually are what should define you, and they
mm,
influence how you are perceived by others, even in these scenarios where it's time to figure out how to get unstuck and get to the promotion. What do you need your bosses and your those who are in leadership roles at your job? What do you need them to know about you based on your value system? Not based on your worth being tied up in that particular job.
mm.
So definitely love the values piece. You already know inside Burn the Rule Book, there's going to be some type of values related exercises that we're going to have be a part of it as well. So thank you again for sharing that tidbit, for sharing your personal story. And before I wrap us up, any final thoughts that you want to share on career stagnation, strategies to to get noticed or fast track your advancement, or just getting unstuck in general?
Oh, there's so many. I think to leave on one simple note, you've put the values front and center for me now, and I think it would be that. I think you're right. For me, strengths, any plan needs to be strengths based, right? It's how it makes it a robust sort of design for us to act on, and that's important for safety. But actually, values are the piece that's directional. So I would say to people just to start spotting for those. And I think you were, really right. I'm very aligned with this that these values, these are just put very simply the things that are most important to us that we hold closely. And they shift over time in response to life and events and you know thoughts and feelings. So it's hard. It's not easy to take our temperature on this stuff, but therefore is just keep tracking what feels most important to you. Every time you have a choice, what's the most important thing? And then would your decision take you closer to that thing or further away from that thing? Then you know what you're in the orbit of is one of your closely held values.
Yes, love it. Thank you for that final share because I agree. Once you said it earlier too, when someone steps on those values and you start to feel violated, it actually impacts how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your performance in the workplace.
Mm,
And so when you were just sharing your final thoughts, what came up for me was this is an investment in yourself to do these recalibrations
mm,
and these self-reflections and this professional personal development. It's a reflection in yourself, not reflection, investment in yourself, and the
yeah.
return being you getting closer and closer to your calling and your purpose, as well as the career that you desire for your life. And I think to kind of shift, not shift us out, right, but kind of tying it back to Burn the Rule Book, this is why this is an individual workshop, because this investment in yourself is time to get a return on investment.
Mm,
Attending Burn the Rule Book is an investment that you should be looking for a return. And myself, along with Jamila and Alicia, my co founders, as well as Helen and other amazing speakers that we're going to bring, we are here to help you make the right investment and help point you towards the return, not get you the return. You're going to get the return by making sure that you do
mm.
the work, as Helen so eloquently mentioned earlier. So you are going to promote yourself. We want to make sure you get unstuck. So if you have not already registered for the Burn the Rule Book Career Transformation Lab, October 15th through the 17th, make sure that you go to the 5 Minute Career Hack page, click the link in the comments, and be sure to register so you can be there bright and early for what is guaranteed to, if you do the work, to help you transform your life and your career. Thank you so much, Helen, for joining us. I'm so excited. I can't wait to the 15th, but thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I'm now a little jealous because now I want to do part two of the podcast where I interview you because you are speak. You were. I was like, wait, how Jamila? I needed to interview Helen. You're speaking my language. It was such a delight to just glean from the insight that you shared, and I got better just because of our conversation today. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to be having the conversation and be part of Burn the Rule Books. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Appreciated.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great evening, rather. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.